Please welcome Quinn Bishop.
As you may have gathered, I'm Quinn Bishop, the owner of Cactus Music. I'm honored to be speaking on climate as it pertains to the music industry and music in general. My public speaking experience is generally limited to band introductions from the Cactus Music stage. So this is going to be fun. I would like to say a few words about my friend John Egan, who is my good friend who was just up here playing for you. John has released 6 albums that are all distinctively different. They utilize varied instrumentation in production styles, and the blues medium it's very easy to fall into a template and do what people expect of you, and John has never done that, and his work exhibits great artistry, and I'm proud to be an advocate for his work. And thanks. So the climate of music, we all know that there's been just drastic changes to music and the music industry and how people enjoy music over the last decade or so. And there's a lot that's positive, and you also hear a lot that's negative too. We're going to completely steer clear of that. I think there's enough that's said of that. It's well-covered territory. We're going to focus on some exciting and positive things, trends that are happening with regards to music and the music industry. 3 topics I'd like to talk to you about today. The climate of music retail, why record stores are important, what their value is in your community, and what they mean to people. Second, the vinyl resurgence. We're going to talk about that. And lastly, which will be our climate local forecast, music here in Houston, Texas. Some history about our company. As Irma said, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary. Cactus was opened in 1975 by 2 brothers, Bud and Don Daly. They grew up in a music industry family. Their father was a legendary country music figure, Pappy Daly. He discovered George Jones. He opened the legendary Starday label. He opened Gold Star Studio here in Houston with Bill Quinn, which is now Sugar Hill Studios, which is the oldest continuously operating recording studio in the United States. He was a record distributor, a record label, a businessman, a real icon of music here in the Gulf Coast area. He was a manager, and he owned a record shop, which was Gulf Coast Amusements, which later became the Record Ranch, which is a moniker which we use for our vinyl store. So Bud and Don were raised in that culture. And if you go to, if you frequent the Heights, our old store, the Record Ranch, is the C&D Hardware on 11th Street. So if you go there to buy anything for your home, you might think about the fact that that's where Hank Williams Sr. played when he came through Houston on the Louisiana Hayride. A little bit of Houston trivia for you. So Bud and Don grew up in all that, and they were men of great character, and they were tremendous mentors to me. Though they'd probably have a laugh if they heard me say that. And when the need came for them to retire, they were incredibly gracious and kind and allowed me to continue the brand. And in 2007, I was able to partner with Brock Wagner from the St. Arnold Brewery, Bruce Levy from Rice Epicurean Markets, and George Fontaine, who owns New West Records in Olay distribution and in other companies, and to continue in our current location, which is off Shepherd near the Southwest Freeway. In addition to being great businessmen, George and Bruce and Brock, they're remarkably Houston-centric individuals, and they're conscious of the fact that brands go away every day, and storefronts and some things that's lost, and they really wanted to retain Cactus as part of the retail landscape here in Houston, and very fortunate to be working with them. And there's Robert Ellis. A little bit about me. I've been selling recorded music for almost 30 years, which is kind of stunning. It's my, in the late 80s, I was an aspiring musician, a songwriter, a student, and at that time, my job at Cactus provided tremendous flexibility and allowed me to do everything that I wanted to do and still draw a paycheck, which is a luxury which we still afford our current employees and touring musicians who might be on payroll. There. Oh, there's some of the lovely Cactus staff, and with Charlie XCX. And that continued like many small business owners. I've done everything at our store, from the most menial tasks through continued through purchasing, through management, general management, and ending with my partnership at the new store with Bruce, Brock, and George, and that's allowed me to continue working with so many of my great friends that I've met through the store and my colleagues who I value greatly. It's a great thing. As somewhat of an opening here, music is a bigger part of our lives than it's ever been before. You can, it's remarkable. You can walk around with your music collection in your pocket. You can, you don't have to listen to the music wherever you go, whatever is playing, which would be traditionally maybe known as Muzak or whatever. You can listen to whatever you want to listen to. We have access to curated satellite radio programs that help you turn on to new music as well as listen to things that you like. Streaming is remarkable. Another way to discover new music. All that's available to you. And another thing that's really interesting to me is that you can hear better music in film, television, and commercials than many times you hear on the radio. Excuse me, my notes got shuffled here. And because of that, you no longer need to rely, when I was younger, on the kid at the record store to tell you what might be cool. But I'm going to lead into my first topic, and that's sometimes a really great thing. And so I want to talk about why record stores are important and their role in your community. Your friendly neighborhood record store is a unique and essential business in your community. Traditionally, as Irma said, we are the conduit to deliver recorded music to music fans, but we're much more than that. In our stores, that's where music fans of all stripes, and certainly with regards to the industry, congregate. In our stores, that's where you're going to find, at any given time, talent buyers, venue owners, publishers, songwriters, musicians, local artists, obviously, music editors, columnists, all of them. And sometimes they're in the same place at the same time, under the same roof, in our store. And I'm speaking, of course, about one of our many in-store performances that you can see. And all of it happens in a retail environment. That's, I think, it's odd that a business draws so many people in from all corners of the industry to mix with music fans. It's a remarkable thing. It's a tremendous validation to me to hear people say, well, I've got to do that interview with the Chronicle or the press or whoever. We've got to do this photo shoot. Let's just meet at Cactus. That really is a validation of what we do. It's where business is discussed, where things happen, relationships are made, and our store's been a catalyst for many important things, especially this location, for many connections being made with regards to labels finding distribution, or songwriters meeting to work with other songwriters, or artists finding a distributor for their records. What we have is that environment that really fosters that. I think this has been especially true of our association with New West Records. Robert Ellis, Buxton, the Wild Moccasins, those artists, I think, certainly benefited from what we do as a record store. And without a place to congregate, we're all just looking at a computer screen. To paraphrase Jim James from My Morning Jacket, he said, there's so much that we do on a day-to-day basis that is devoid of humanity. And the discussion of music and the getting together with people that are like-minded people that like music, I really think it's a precious thing. What we do, we champion art. We champion art that we love. We champion artists that we think are valuable and worthy of your attention. And if you're a music fan, we strive to be your third place. We try to be the place that if you are not at home with your family, and if you're not at work or at school, we're the place that you want to be. And we ply you with free in-store performances. We ply you with cool records of the latest products that people want to buy, art openings, listening parties, giveaways, those kind of things. And I don't know if you've heard this news. Beer creates tremendous goodwill with music fans. It does work. And all those things are meant to underscore our ties to our customers. And, over the past month or so, I've dealt with several estate situations with former customers, and I can tell you that the bond between music stores and their customers it goes very deep, and it's a very, I'm sure some other businesses experience that, but I do think it is a special thing. And we are so fortunate to have so many great music stores here in Houston. Many cities just do not have that luxury. It's just not that way. I want to mention new record stores. There's a tremendous amount of new stores that are opening. And, in recent years, all you've heard about is the shrinking storefronts, and a lot of that's associated with the decline of CD sales. But I also want to say that in a lot of ways, that is as much of an independent business problem as it is a record store problem. Escalating rents, things like that affect all independent businesses. But it is a more welcoming environment for upstarts. The decline of big retail, becoming disenchanted with selling music and shifting their retail space into new things. I mean, just the past couple of weeks, you're hearing about Starbucks dropping music, CDs for sale. They sell a tremendous amount of CDs. And that also, even with all the talk of vinyl records, there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity to sell CDs if you're an independent retailer. So, CD sales, obviously there's a decline as people shift towards digital, but it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If there's fewer storefronts to sell packaged goods, guess what? Fewer of them are sold. It's just how it works. So you do see people emerging with, there's a wide open landscape where there's no competition, and if you're in a market where there's not a store, there's an opportunity. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. A husband and wife couple that we know through Cactus, Jason and Joanna Dubose, they have the disco round in Corpus, and they worked in education for years and realized that they're in Corpus Christi, and there's a pretty big population there. There's an Air Force base nearby, and there's nowhere to buy music. So they acquired the Disc Exchange, Disco Round, which had been there for 18 years and saw ways to make it better and are running with it and doing very well. And I think that's a template that's happening across our country. And I'll tell you a very funny thing that about that story that occurred to me, and that's that who here has been to Denver, Colorado? Has anybody here been to Twist and Shout in Denver? Doug has. Twist and Shout is a remarkable store. And this young couple's experience very much echoes what Paul's was. Paul was an educator, and one day he went to his local record store and bumped his nose on the glass door and realized that the store was up for auction. And he went home that night and talked to his wife, Jill, and said, this is what I want to do. And they made that great leap of faith and got in the music business and never looked back. And that's one of the finest stores in the country. And I think it's remarkable that, in the past couple of years, you're seeing people do the same thing. And of course, it's a very hard business, as it is for any independent business. And you have to be a fiercely independent person to jump in there. And with regarding the future of record stores, I just want to make one point, and that's that the resurgence of vinyl record sales is creating a foundation and a customer base which will sustain niche retail for decades to come. Not everybody's going to get hooked on it like me, or maybe a few of you here, but there's enough of them that are going to continue to buy records that it's going to keep it rolling, which plays perfectly into my next point, and that's the resurgence of vinyl records. You hear so much about it. It's on TV. You're reading about it. The numbers are kind of staggering. But if we can talk, I want to mention what the drivers are for that and try to understand what's happening. A quick survey. So who here is a digital music customer? Who listens to their music digitally? Come on, almost everybody, right? Okay. Who still embraces the CD format? Who still listens to CDs? Okay, quite a few of everybody. How about who are our vinyl buyers here? Okay, a lot of people. Cassettes. Jay's got cassettes. 8 tracks. All right, Dave Sadoff. I know he's got some 8 tracks. Wax cylinders. Nobody's got wax cylinders. So, a lot of the same hands raised over and over there, and I think what you're seeing is kind of different nowadays is that people are enjoying multiple formats with their music, where traditionally it's only been 1, maybe 2, but now your vinyl music fan is also a digital music fan, is also on occasion buys CDs. If the value's there, if the packaging is great, the liner notes are great, they will still buy those items. Personally, I love to see it. Records are a touchstone for me. Records are why I do what I do and started doing what I do. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. When I was in my early teens, I was at a friend's house, and he had a stack of records, and they were all like new release records that were of interest to me. And I saw in the upper right-hand corner, there was a gold stamp, and it said, "Lent for promotional use only, must be returned upon the demand of the owner." And, of course, those were promotional records sent to radio stations or record stores. But in my mind, what clicked was somebody out there is getting free records. And and I got to be a part of this. So, and the figures are kind of staggering. 2007, only 1 million records sold. 2014, 8 million records sold. That's a tremendous ramp up. As it relates to our business in 2007, in our new location, vinyl was only about 15% of our overall business. Now it's 53%, and it's gonna obviously continue to increase this year. It's important to know that it's not a retro fascination. It's not nostalgia that's driving record sales. It is music fans in their late teens to their late 20s that are really leading the charge here and buying a lot of these records. And you have to know that unless they were the youngest of a multi-sibling family, their parents didn't buy records. Their parents bought cassettes or CDs. And they see turntable culture and vinyl records as defining their generation. And that is a huge driver for it. Now, granted, there's still people like me that have never abandoned the format, or people that are just rediscovering it. And you know, that's very cool, too. Interesting thing that needs to be mentioned is the shift has, in the customer base, has grown markedly more female than it has been in the past. You know, the record stores traditionally, I think, you know, 70-75% male, and now it's, you know, 60-40, 50-50. It's in there. It's depending on what day you come in the store. It's much more female friendly. And I'll tell you something, that is a great thing, because wherever the girls go, that's where all the guys go. So it really helps you build your customer base and makes for more people through the store. Also, I do think that there's the vinyl resurgence is somewhat of a knee-jerk reaction to what had happened before with the vilified Napster era of music fans that were just filling up hard drives with crummy sounding music that they may never get around to listening to. And what you're seeing is a return to what I call the bookshelf mentality. And that's that you've sorted through all the crap that is out there, and you have a shelf or a cabinet or an entire wall or a room that's filled with stuff that resonates with you. You've sorted through everything, and it's what is on those shelves speaks volumes about you. You've curated that. That is what defines you, and I think you're seeing a return to that. It needs to be mentioned the complexities associated with unmanageable growth. Oh, there's those guys again. Here we'll go. We'll stick with those guys. There's complexities associated with that. You can't have that huge ramp up in that short amount of time without some serious issues, major supply chain problems. For my vinyl buyers out there, can you tell me, has there been any time in the last few months where you've wanted to buy a recent release that was you couldn't wait to hear it and you can't find the record anywhere? You know, it's just not available. Anybody have that experience? Doug? And those circumstances are very common. I mean, just in the last few months, records by Beck and Mac DeMarco and Taylor Swift. Those records weren't available for weeks and in some cases months, because records are, as opposed to CDs, they are slow to manufacture. They have to be hand assembled. They are slow to ship, and they're slow to arrive in stores. So it's very difficult to stock, to keep bestsellers in the store. There's also an aging infrastructure. There's only about 15 pressing plants in the entire country that make all of the new records that we buy. And there's no replacement parts. So many of these replacement parts, if they fail, or if the parts fail, machine breaks down, they're having to hand machine these things on site to keep these things running. So they're running night and day to press the records to meet the demand, and it's just not doing it. I actually think that the record sales could be 15-20% greater than they are if you could actually buy the records that you want to buy in the stores. But it's just very difficult, and that's a big problem. And now I'd like to talk about the climate as it pertains to music in Houston, Texas. Quick survey. Who in this group knows a talented musician that they follow, or a talented artist, or come on. Yeah. We all know tons of talented, remarkably talented people that are making music here in Houston, and it is a great time. I would hope that everybody here realizes that that we have a very vibrant music community. And I see several of you out there who I think are tremendous artists and are blazing down a path and doing their thing. So we have a very vibrant music community, and I think it's hard to get a bead on Houston nationally because we are as diverse as our city is. There's so much happening here, and as far as the national perception, I think for so long it was all about Houston and ZZ Top and Beyonce and the Ghetto Boys or whatever, but not so much anymore. I think we've had a lot of breakthrough acts and a lot of acts that are poised to have some national attention this year. I think the Suffers, obviously, the new Buxton record, I think is going to get some tremendous play in the national arena. And we have a lot of patrons who are trying to push those local artists into the national arena, which is key. And those breakout acts provide a template. In the arts, regardless of what medium it is, you have to have somebody that crosses over and punches through to create a path for everybody behind them to go, that's how you do it. That's how you get ahead. And I think just over the last few years that we've really kind of seen that, and we just have so many artists here that are incredibly hardworking and has sacrificed for their craft, and they're pushing forward. And because of that, I want to make an appeal to you to be an advocate for Houston music and to play a role in the advancement of music from our city. Thanks. It's really easy to do. You're all creative, forward-thinking, cool individuals that the arts mean something to you. And do not underestimate what an enthusiastic recommendation means to your friends and your colleagues with regards to someone who's making music in our city. And it's not about the next big thing. It's not about who's going to sell a ton of records. It's about championing, it's about what we do at the record store. It's about championing great art and what you think is great and what resonates with you. And it's so easy to share music with people, and it's so easy to forward somebody music that might turn them on to something that's happening here, especially in other cities. I know many of you have colleagues around the country, and you're probably thinking of an act right now. I mean, we all know somebody who's doing that, and so I would urge you to act on that and try to be a champion for somebody that you know that makes great records here. That could, you could, that tipping point could be the next person you talk to, and you could really help their fortunes. And also, it needs to be said, streaming services and all that is a great way to discover new music, but nothing resonates more with an artist who's hardworking and made a dedication to their art to purchase a CD from the bandstand or buy a ticket or buy a T-shirt or something like that. That's really paramount. So in closing, I want to say that with regards to record stores, it's spring. The forecast is sunny, and I think you're going to see more and more fiercely independent people open stores. You're going to see them prosper and continue to be culturally relevant businesses in their community, and that's a great thing. Just don't open one near me. The vinyl sales will continue to grow, and hopefully the infrastructure issue will be addressed. I think it's very problematic, but it does need to be resolved because it's making me crazy. And the Houston music scene will continue to grow, and I really think that many of the artists who are creating and working here in Houston are going to get to where they need to go, and I know it's going to be because many of you are going to champion what they do and help them find a greater audience. Thank you for listening. That's what I have for you today. And I hope to see you around the record store.